The one that upset me the most, I had a sexual harassment case where I was representing the individual, and we had a mannequin, and we wanted to demonstrate what the sexual harassment was.
My God.
The judge wouldn't allow it.
Really?
I was so disappointed.
Why
The
don't
mannequin in
judges
the back.
allow that kind of stuff?
I was like, that would have been powerful because people need to see it, and
They need to see it.
They need to see it to understand like how to relive the moment, and how uncomfortable she was by what he had done. And it's one thing to testify, but sometimes, people, they don't cry enough and jurors are upset. Like, you didn't cry enough, or, people start really personalizing it.
That's a brilliant idea, though, to bring the mannequin to show what the sexual harassment was, so they can understand it, because you're not going to have two people get up and do it.
Correct.
But you have to have something like that to show. I tried a case recently, it was like earlier this year, and some of the problem is like some of these judges. And listen, I'm not saying anything negative about judges, okay? But some of them don't have trial experience or have enough trial experience. They've either been appointed or they're elected, and they weren't trial lawyers, and they don't understand even the rules as far as like, hey, demonstrative evidence is okay.
Right.
I had a surgical board, a board that just showed how the surgery was done. Like, this is the incision, this is where it's opened up, that's the level of the disc. They wouldn't let me use a board to demonstrate to the jury the type of surgery that was done.
Right.
And it blew my mind.
Right.
It blew my mind. So, unfortunately, sometimes it comes down to, the judge that you're in front of. And you have a fantastic firm, unbelievable team, employment law. You are the lawyer's lawyer. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out and talk?
You can go to our website,
Yeah.
KVL, that's Kilo Victor Lima, Lima Alpha Whiskey, kvllaw.com. You can call us at 954-527-1115. Or you can email me, and you'll probably get a response within 30 minutes. blerner@kvllaw.com. And that's really how you can reach us. And for individuals that call me, I'll speak to them. And usually within 5 minutes, I'll know if they have a case, but they end up talking to me a little bit longer because I've been doing it long enough. You kind of know. And for companies, they call me, and like companies like yours, like a law firm, and I do represent a bunch of law firms where, I'm on retainer, as they call it, where you just pick up the phone and I may not hear from you for months on end. And then one day you call me and say, hey, I need a contract, or, hey, there's this issue that came up. What do I do? And so I'm there to just offer counseling and advice.
Seriously, I think literally every single lawyer that is watching this should reach out to you. Just, hey, do an audit, take a look at their policies and procedures, take a look at if they have any questions about employees or anything like that. I mean, you're just a tremendous resource. And, like, you're someone that's just, knowledgeable, and you don't bullshit around. You just get to the point. You send an email back, give the answers, and go time.
I try to pride myself on two things. One, I'm not a really good standardized test taker. I don't use big words. So I try to be as practical as possible with the advice. And so a lot of times people will call me and like, hey, we want to, this person did this. And I'm like, well, let me ask you, what is it you want? Do you want to fire the person, or do you want to try to keep them?
Yeah.
Real practical advice to try to solve the problem, and then see if there's a solution. And sometimes there may not be a solution that you want, but that's what has to happen. But I do try to pride myself on just being practical and thinking through the issues and like, how's this is going to play out, reality, as compared to, well, let me give you this deep dive on the law and tell you the 15 statutes that apply. Like, people don't want to hear that.
And people need to know, at least like the employers need to know how much money they can save by reaching out to you ahead of time.
Yeah.
As opposed to calling you in the back end once they made the mistake, or they, or the someone's already coming after them for whatever reason.
Right. The penny wise, pound foolish saying, right?
Yeah.
So, you call me and I bill in 6-minute increments. I'm really darn efficient at what I do, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing this now 26 years. And so, I'm not saying I've seen it all, but a lot of the issues that I get called are what I would view as more routine in nature, that I can answer them pretty quickly because they're standard par for the course for me in terms of questions that I field. And a lot of it will solve itself out. And you may have to spend a little bit, but that's the sort of difficulty in my world, is because I don't make companies money, right? I'm really kind of a loss to them in the sense that they've got to spend money on me. But to your point, like, I'm going to save you a whole lot more in the future.
I don't think I've ever looked at you like that. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, whenever I look at like you're investing in your own business.
Right.
You are going to make money. I think of it as the firm is going to grow and get bigger and get better. And I don't really like to look at like profit or whatever, like that, by having a great team. You're part of the team. You know what I mean? That's it. End of story.
I appreciate that. And, a lot of times I get calls from companies that have grown really fast.
Yeah.
And they're finally now going to invest in that infrastructure, which would include having, it's either an HR person or really an employment lawyer is what they need.
Yeah.
But by then it's a little too late, right? You've grown so fast, and I appreciate business moved really quick and you were just trying to catch up. But now you don't have contracts in place, right?
Yeah.
These people don't have non-solicitation agreements. So now your best salesperson can leave and they start taking your customers, And so that time you really need to think a little bit down the road, get these things in place and protect yourself to protect your business. And really, you're protecting your business, but you're also protecting the individual as well. Because to me, when you have these documents in writing that spell out, like in a handbook policy, this is what you can expect. That's kind of the deal you've struck with each other, on both ends. So I know what to expect and they know what to expect from you. And I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and the business is built. It's got a great foundation. It's professionally done. It has the documents in place.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to, because the first thing I ask is people like, I want to fire them. Like, what's the personnel file look like?
Yeah.
Well, have you given them warnings? Well, and I'm like, well, it's a yes or no. It's not a well, yes or no. And I have very strict, very stern conversations with people.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see where'd you warn them? Well, we haven't. I'm like, well, you know what? You're not going to get the papal blessing from me to fire them. I think you need to give them a warning because you got to be fair. This person has no clue that this is coming. Could you technically do it? Yes, but you may be exposing yourself to some liability. Even if you win, you're spending $150,000 to win.
And it's crazy because people really need to think, again, like what you're bringing up right now is like Florida, they say, is an at-will employment state, but there's still these things they got to think about, and that's why they got to reach out to a lawyer like you to know beforehand whether this at-will thing actually applies to this particular situation.
It does, but you know what? Everyone's got a friend who seems to be a lawyer who can then write a letter, and now you're stuck with now calling a lawyer after the fact, and you've had to spend money now, even if the case there's no real case.
Yeah.
You're still dealing now with a problem and the frustrations that come with, you don't know who the adversary is on the other side. Completely unreasonable. Maybe they're reasonable, but they still want their client to get money. So now you're dealing with that. So if you can, think about having a lawyer on your side. That's critically important.
Listen, I'm thrilled to have a great legal mind, unbelievable lawyer's lawyer, Brian Lerner, in the office. And this was really fun, man. I'm really glad we got to chat about all this stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thank you for bringing me on. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.